That's a good crappie, y'all. So what is happening, people? Hey, today we're back at Kerr Lake. It is March the 12th, much warmer than it was last Friday when we were here. The water temperature has came up as 52 degrees. Last week it was about 41 degrees by that afternoon. So I don't know how that's affected the crappie as far as moving up, but anyway, we back in the upper end. So hey guys, real quick, we're going to continue with our episode about how to find fish on any lake. Now last week we were here at Kerr Lake and we went up these creeks early in the spring looking for those big spawning females out on the flats. And as you see, I picked two creeks. We went up the creeks looking for fish. We actually put two patterns on those crappie. That some were staging outside the coves on the drop-offs in fairly deep water. And we found some up actually out on the flats, on the spawning flats. Some were up as shallow as 4 feet. Most were around the 6 to 8 foot depth. And so today we're going to come back up on those flats and I'll show you where we're going to kind of be fishing. And we're looking for those biggest spawning crappie that move up there first. There's also a lot of shad up there on those flats too. Water's cool, sun's up, water's muddy, it warms up, and the water will warm up just a little bit up there, and those big sows are just waiting on the males to move up, and then they'll move to the shore and start their spawn. And so let's take a look real quick at kind of where we at. So last week I'm fishing in these same creeks, so sorry about that. So remember, when you're picking out a new area, you see how large this area is. Now this is the main channel here, but you see you've got multiple creeks here. And as last week I said, I chose this one and this creek. Now if I have time today, I'm going to come down to, this is Rudd's Creek here. Here's a boat landing where I put in. And I'm going to check out this creek here in this back end. You see that there's some shallow spawning flats back here, this back side. Now, I haven't been up here and marked any fish. Now I'm assuming that there's probably still two patterns to fish, and I'll kind of show you some of these patterns. So I know that on these deep drop-offs along these mouths of these little coves here, you've got a lot of fish staged out here waiting to move up in these coves. And that was, as I said, that was one pattern I fished last week. And then I fished that pattern of these fish on these flats up here. And this creek channel comes on up here. And I'm going to just work this flat here looking for some larger size fish. And that's the pattern I'm going to fish. Now, I could go to a different section of the lake, but as a fisherman, when I come up here, every time I come, I learn something. I have a bunch of underwater brush marked. I have underwater stumps marked that I marked last time. And each time I come, I'm looking for a different anomaly on the bottom that may hold fish. And so I need to come up here at least 4 times, in my opinion, 4 times to kind of learn the area, learn the drop-offs, and learn how the fish are transitioning. So when you come to a new lake, it may take you several years to, gather enough knowledge. Now, from what knowledge I gathered last week, I could probably replicate this in other creeks. But since I knew this creek, I want to come here. I'll probably come 2 more times, and then I may venture out. But as you know, as the time changes in coming weeks, the pattern is going to change. But next year along this time, I can replicate this pattern I did the 1st of March and should be successful. And as we fish today, I'm gonna, what I did last week when we put that pattern, I used the live scope, went across the flat, and I would spot some of those big crappie. Now, the reason I'm back is because I had a lot of big crappie move away from the boat. When you'd get close to them, they were putting out big signatures. I caught fish up to almost 15 inches long. Some of the biggest signatures, which I figure were 2-pound plus crappie, actually moved away from the boat. So I came back and we're going to try to target those bigger fish today. That's a good crappie, y'all. Probably 13.5 inches long. 1.6 pounds. Anyway, 1.6 pounds. Now look, I have dropped, there's some big crappies up here. I have vertically dropped shallow, 8 foot to about 4 foot deep. And I bet I have dropped the lure in on at least 10, if not 12 fish. All of them have swam off for whatever reason. A couple of them have looked at the lure. So I switched. Sometimes crappie just like a lure that's actually swimming. I've seen that happen multiple times. So I switched and just put that 16th ounce on with the Kalin's Ghost jig, which is a fantastic color. It's got that little chartreuse tail. And that time I saw that fish and I just pitched out past him and swam it. Really didn't see him hit the lure. I saw him going down, so I assumed my lure was below him, and boom, he went down and hit the lure. So, hey, let's go catch another fish. So all those things you take in consideration. Remember, as a fisherman, you have to fish the pattern of where the fish are for that time of year. We're in March, fish are in transition, moving up, and unless you fish twice a week on your body of water, it's difficult to keep up with them. So today, the water's 50 degrees. I know the fish were here on this flat last week, so I know some big crappies are going to be here. Just a matter if we can get them to bite. You see this? I'll show y'all this. See this log right here? There's a crappie hanging right up under it. See him right there? I don't know if I can catch him. This log sticking up in the water. And you see him right there. Let's see if we can get that joker to bite. I'm gonna float that lure right down by him. I don't know if he'll bite or not. See, he's just sitting right up under that log right there. Probably get too close to scare him. So let me give you an update. So the fish are not really in the feeding mode. I mean, they're looking at the lure, moving off. I even had some pretty good sized minnows. And I just watched the crappie. He stayed with that minnow about 5 minutes. He chased the minnow up, down, just never did eat the minnow. And so anyway, hey, sometimes it's like that. They had been running from or just looking at the artificial, so I figured I'll stick a minnow on and see what happens. And like I said, you can see the minnow on the live scope moving up, fish moved up, moved down, and so anyway, I'm gonna go back in this little pocket right here and pitch around and see if it's any crappie who actually moved in this little pocket right here. So hey, stay with us, let's go catch a fish. Now, that's a good crappie. That's 11.5-inch crappie. So I want to make a note here. So I've been using that white with the white head, fished it all the way across this flat, caught one fish, fish moved off from it. Remember, I put the minnow down on them. So I fished this little pocket. I saw some fish, but they wouldn't bite. So I made a subtle change. Now I know in Kerr Lake they love that greenish color, and they've got some herring. I think they got blueback herring here. So I said, well, you know, hey, let's make a color change. Sometimes a slight color change will make a difference. So I used that. So let's do this again. So I made that subtle change. So that is that Bobby Garland straight tail jig here, and in a kind of a chartreuse blue, got some green in it, and then that's just a natural color. Now that fish reacted like he was supposed to, dropped it right down. He looked at it for a minute, boom, decided to eat it. Now I've fished too long and too many days to see, especially this time of year when the water's cool. You can fish all morning, and man, you just tough on you to try to actually get a bite. And all of a sudden, around lunchtime, it's 11:15, around lunchtime or towards the afternoon, it just, boom, the bite just turns on, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, you can't do any wrong. So, hey, sometimes it's tough a little bit. You're looking for a pattern, you continue to fish. Now, I caught that fish just like I've been catching them, spotting them with the live scope, moving in real slow and easy, and dropping a lure right to them. So, that's a good crappie. Oh, that'll be a big boy. He's about 10.5 inches. We'll throw him back. Boom! There they are. We're not keeping fish today. I'm gonna turn all these fish back. Hey guys, I ain't gonna lie to you. Hey, you know Big Sam here is gonna shoot you straight. Fishing was slow. These fish, for some reason, are very, very spooky. Many times, I don't know, maybe 50 times today, as I let the lure down, hey, they swam right off. They swam away from the boat. They would come over and look at the lure many times, but just not bite. I just finished right here at this opening that's behind me, going into this upper end, and I think about 4 times I actually was pitching a lure out to the fish, bringing it back, and they would just follow the lure right along. Most of the time they'll suck it right in, but for today, for some reason, hey, sometimes that's just the way it is. But our pattern worked. I spotted a lot of big crappie out on this flat. They just weren't biting. I even had minnows that dropped down to them. They would come over and look at the minnow, but just not eat the minnow. And hey, that's just fishing. Hey, you've had a great day today. I think we caught 10 or 12 fish maybe. Many of them on the small size. Caught those were the 2 biggest. We're not keeping fish today, so I had those in the live well just to have a thumbnail for you guys. Anyway, our pattern should stay pretty persistent over the next week. You can come up the end of the creeks to these flats and find these fish if they are biting. I'm going to leave. It's about 2 o'clock now. Now they may turn on right before dark. I've seen that happen before. Maybe not. But anyway, hey guys, we appreciate all the support we get for this channel. Hey, you guys are awesome subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That keeps us doing what we're doing. Hit that like button. Click the notification bell so you don't miss an episode of Wildlife Adventures. And as always, you remember, it's a wildlife, and I'll see you on the water.